At the time, Evelyn Vale fired me on livestream. More than 1 million people were watching. Most of them thought they were watching a useless intern finally get put in his place. I was watching a CEO sign the document. That let me stop holding up her empire. That was the funny thing about public humiliation. If the person humiliating you was careless enough, they did half the paperwork for you. The main stage of Luminara Entertainment looked like it had been built out of money and ego. Silver LED walls rose behind the platform. Loading logo animations drifted across the screens. Investors sat beneath soft blue lights with expensive tablets on their laps. Trainees watched from the side balcony with nervous faces. Fans flooded the livestream with hearts, fireworks, and comments moving so fast they looked like digital rain. At the center of it all stood Evelyn, the woman the internet called the queen of modern idol production. Beside her stood Jace Orion, her celebrity boyfriend, wearing a white stage jacket and the calm smile of a man being praised for work he had never touched. And behind the production table, holding a spare tablet and checking the backup audio feed, stood me, Ren. To everyone in that room, I was just the unpaid intern Evelyn had tolerated for too long. Charity Case, the quiet assistant. The guy who brought coffee, fixed cables, carried folders, and disappeared before important people arrived. That was the role she had given me. That was the role everyone had accepted. So when Evelyn paused in the middle of her investor presentation and looked straight at me, most people thought it was part of the show. He held the microphone close to her lips and said, "Before we move into Luminara's next era, I want to correct a misunderstanding inside this company." Livestream comments slowed for half a second. Investors turned their heads. My hand stayed on the tablet screen. Evelyn's smile widened. "Some people mistake kindness for permission," she said. "They stand near success for long enough and start believing they helped create it." A few staff members glanced at me. Jace lowered his eyes and laughed under his breath. That was how I knew the performance had been rehearsed. Evelyn stepped down from the stage. Camera operator followed automatically, because Evelyn had trained everyone around her to treat her every movement like content. He stopped in front of my table. "Ren," she said, soft enough to sound graceful, and loud enough for the microphones to catch every word. "You have been given more chances than anyone at your level deserves." My level, that was the first little knife. "You were brought here as an assistant," she continued. "You were allowed to observe, you were allowed to learn. You were allowed to stand in rooms most interns never see." She tilted her head like she was disappointed in me. "But lately, your behavior has become uncomfortable. You have involved yourself in decisions far above your position. You have confused proximity with importance. You have shown an unhealthy attachment to this company's success." The room went quiet in the careful way powerful rooms go quiet. Not because they disagree, because they are waiting to see which side is safer. I looked at the investor row. Some faces were shocked, some were amused. Some were already calculating whether this little drama would affect share value. Evelyn lifted a folder from an assistant beside her and placed it in front of me. "Your internship is terminated," she said. Livestream exploded. "No way, she fired him live." "Who is that guy?" Intern got too comfortable. Jay stepped beside Evelyn and placed one hand on her shoulder. The gesture was perfect for the camera. He was being generous, he said. "Some people don't understand how hard founders work. They think because they see a dashboard, they built the company." Few employees laughed, nervously at first, and louder when Evelyn smiled. That was the second knife. Because the dashboard he was talking about was mine. The investor predictions were mine. The sponsor confidence system was mine. The trainee ranking engine he had been showing off for 6 months was mine. But Jay stood beneath the lights, accepting applause. And Evelyn turned back to the camera. "Luminara was not built by clingy assistants," she said. "It was built by vision, it was built by leadership. And it was built by real creative minds like Jace Orion." Jace gave the camera a humble little smile. The kind of smile men wear when they are pretending not to enjoy stolen credit. Evelyn opened the folder and slid the termination form toward me. "Sign it, Ren, leave gracefully. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Everyone expected something from me. Denial, a shaking voice, a desperate explanation, maybe even tears. That was the script she had written for me. Useless intern humiliated by a queen, then dragged off stage while the audience laughed. I picked up the pen, the tip clicked once. Evelyn's smile sharpened. I signed my name at the bottom of the form. And I closed the folder and slid it back to her. No trembling, no begging, no apology. I only said, "Then I'll stop supporting the company from today." For 1 second nobody reacted, then Jace laughed. A few staff members followed him, the comments filled with crying emojis. Evelyn looked at me like I had just embarrassed myself more than she ever could. "Supporting," she repeated. "Ren, you carried cables." I nodded. That was one of the easier things I did here. The laughter changed, not enough to become fear, just enough to become uncomfortable. Security approached from the side of the stage. I stepped away from the production table before they touched me. I did not want anyone to say I resisted. I did not want a messy clip that could be edited later. Evelyn needed the camera to see me small. I needed the camera to see her certain. That difference mattered. As I walked toward the elevator, my phone vibrated once in my pocket. Private message appeared on the screen. Everline sponsor desk. Emergency support freeze authorized. I looked back at Evelyn. He had already returned to the stage. Jace was speaking now, explaining Luminara's new creative era, while standing in front of slides generated from the system he had never learned to operate. Another message appeared. Technical custody. Suspend ranking engine validation. The elevator doors opened. I stepped inside. The security guard watched me like I was a fired intern trying to save face. I tapped one word, confirm. Doors closed on Evelyn's applause. And for the first time in 3 years, Luminara Entertainment stood without me holding it up. 3 years earlier, Luminara had not looked like an empire, it looked like a beautiful failure. The company had 3 talented trainees, 2 half-finished brand deals, a mountain of debt, and a founder who could convince almost anyone that tomorrow would be different. That founder was Evelyn Vale. Back then, she was not the untouchable woman on magazine covers. She was exhausted, underfunded, and still sincere enough to say things like, "If the system ignores talented people, we'll build a better system." I believed her. That was my first mistake. At the time, I was running private investments through Everline Capital, a fund I had built quietly after leaving the public side of finance. I disliked cameras, I disliked founder worship, and I especially disliked companies that treated people like disposable batteries. But Luminara seemed different, so Everline saved it. We did not do it with a giant dramatic announcement. We did it through investment notes, emergency bridge funding, sponsor confidence guarantees, and a technical custody agreement that most employees never saw. I built the Starlight Index because Luminara needed a way to find real talent before the market noticed it. It was not magic. It tracked vocal growth, learning speed, audience response, stamina, original composition habits, and long-term brand risk. That was why Evelyn loved it at first, then she started to hate it. The system did not flatter her favorites. It only cared who was improving, who was reliable, and who was being quietly buried by politics. Myra Han was one of those people. She was 24, older than most rookies in the idol pipeline, with a calm face and a voice that sounded simple until the third note, when something in the room changed. Evelyn called her difficult to package. Jace called her boring. The Starlight Index called her the strongest long-term performer in the agency. So I protected her audition files when Jace tried to bury them. I corrected her vocal rest schedule when a manager pushed her past safe limits. I flagged her original song as protected material after Jace's production team downloaded it too many times. I did not expect gratitude. I did it because talent should not need visible power to survive. That was also why I entered Luminara as Ren, the unpaid intern. On paper, I was a low-level operations assistant. In reality, I wanted to see the company from the floor because people reveal themselves around someone they think cannot hurt them. Evelyn revealed herself slowly. At first, she thanked junior staff by name and protected trainees from sponsors who wanted too much control. Then she stopped remembering names, softened contracts until they hid sharper teeth, and let Jace put his face on the Starlight Index presentation deck. He called it my creative model. Evelyn never corrected him. That was when I started adding protection clauses: misrepresentation of core assets, retaliation against technical custodians, abuse of trainee rights, false statements to sponsors, theft of original artist material. Every clause looked boring. That was the nice thing about contracts. Villains rarely fear sentences they do not understand. The night Evelyn fired me, she thought she had removed an embarrassing assistant. What she had actually done was create a clean break. Before that, if I withdrew support too sharply, she could argue that Everline had destabilized Luminara without cause. After the livestream, I had cause. She had terminated my operational access in public. She had credited licensed technical architecture to someone else in public. She had called me unstable in front of investors. And she had signed her name beneath a termination form that ended the unpaid advisory support she did not even know she depended on. So that night, I sat alone in my apartment, opened the private Everline dashboard, and reviewed the support layers one by one. Sponsor briefings, paused. Predictive ranking validation, paused. Crisis response automation, paused. Executive reputation firewall, paused. Technical maintenance beyond license baseline, paused. I did not destroy anything. I did not hack anything. I did not touch a single asset that belonged to Luminara. I only stopped giving them what they had never owned. At 12:07 in the morning, the dashboard asked for final confirmation. I thought of Evelyn's smile. I thought of Jace accepting applause. I thought of Myra standing on the balcony, watching me get fired with both hands clenched around the railing. And I clicked confirm. The next morning, the empire coughed. It did not collapse dramatically. Real systems rarely collapse like towers in movies. They fail in small, embarrassing ways first. Sponsor confidence reports did not arrive at 8 in the morning. The executive dashboard loaded, but half the predictive notes were blank. The trainee trend panel displayed raw numbers with no recommendation layer. The crisis response system sorted overnight fan sentiment alphabetically instead of by risk level, which meant the word amazing appeared beside a growing accusation thread about fake credits. At 9:15 in the morning, Evelyn called an emergency executive meeting. At 9:17 in the morning, someone finally noticed I was not in the room to fix it. I knew because Iris Chen texted me. Iris was Luminara's PR director, careful, tired, and smarter than Evelyn gave her credit for. Her message was simple: did you shut something off? I replied, I stopped providing services after termination. There was a long pause, then she wrote, services. I almost laughed. That was the whole problem. They had spent so long calling my work favors that they forgot favors could end. Inside Luminara's glass conference room, Evelyn was apparently still calm. Iris later told me how it went. Evelyn stood at the head of the table, tablet in hand, and said, pull up the Starlight Index. Jace leaned back in his chair, already on it. He opened the presentation version. Not the operating layer, not the validation console, not the predictive correction panel, a presentation. A very beautiful presentation, to be fair, the kind with animated constellations and glowing trainee names, absolutely useless for running a company. The ranking director cleared his throat. "We need the advisory layer," Jace frowned. "The what?" For the first time, the room saw a crack in the performance. The finance chief found reports referring to an external technical custodian. Evelyn waved it off as old legal clutter. "It appears several sponsor confidence reports were validated outside the company," he warned. "Then validate them inside the company," Evelyn snapped. "Short, confident, impossible." By lunch, Jace had tried to manually adjust the ranking variables. By 2 in the afternoon, one trainee with chronic lateness appeared as a top reliability candidate. Another trainee who had missed 3 vocal assessments was tagged as performance stable. Myra hand moved from inactive risk to top strategic priority. That last part was not Jace's mistake. That was the system remembering the truth after his decorative filters stopped covering it. At 3 in the afternoon, I sent a formal notice to Luminara's general counsel. Effective upon public termination, all unpaid advisory support, sponsor mediation, emergency technical maintenance, and non-required predictive validation provided by Ren under auxiliary Everline arrangements had ceased. The email was dry, almost boring. I liked boring. Boring was harder to edit into hysteria. Evelyn did not like boring. She called it sabotage. Jace called it jealousy. A junior manager, trying to be useful, suggested they ask me to restore the systems temporarily. Evelyn stared at him until he stopped speaking. "No," she said, "we prove we never needed him." That afternoon, she announced a live trainee ranking showcase, a special broadcast. Sponsors invited, fans watching, investors reassured. Jace Orion would personally demonstrate the brilliance of Luminara's talent model. When I saw the announcement, I leaned back in my chair. They thought the first failure was a technical problem. I knew it was a mirror, and Evelyn had just decided to stand in front of it with brighter lights. Before the showcase, Evelyn moved first. She was good at that. That was one of the reasons she had survived this long. She could feel public uncertainty before other people saw it. She knew how to feed a crowd a simple story before reality became complicated. The statement appeared at 8 at night. It was polished, emotional, and false in the precise way dangerous lies usually are. To our Luminara family today, misinformation has spread regarding a former temporary assistant who was recently removed from company operations. We want to clarify that no intern, assistant, or junior staff member has ever owned or created Luminara's core creative systems. Our growth has always come from leadership, vision, and the artists who trust us. She did not name me at first, then Jace went live. That was less polished. He sat in a studio chair under warm lighting, sleeves rolled up like a man about to confess hard work. "Look," he said, smiling at the chat, "creative people deal with this all the time. You let someone observe your process and suddenly they think they invented it." The host laughed. "Are you talking about the fired intern?" Jace made a face. "I'm trying to be kind." The chat loved that. They clipped it immediately. By midnight, I was a meme. The intern who thought he was CEO cable guy claims empire. He carried a tablet and thought he built idle music. The comments were ugly but useful. Every public lie made the later correction cleaner, so I did not post, I did not explain. Send a preservation notice to Luminara Entertainment, its officers, directors, and relevant employees. Preserve all source code records, ranking adjustment histories, sponsor communications, livestream recordings, internal messages, contract drafts, trainee rights documents, and public statements related to the Starlight Index, Everline Capital, Ren, and associated technical custody agreement. Within 9 minutes, Iris texted me again. "Ren, why does this read like a shareholder dispute?" I replied, "Because Evelyn made it one." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally she wrote, "Are you really just an intern?" I stared at the message for a while, then I typed, "Ask Evelyn who funds the sponsor guarantees." She did not respond. I imagined her sitting in some empty office, reading that line twice. Iris had worked in public relations for 10 years. She knew panic language. She knew bluff language. She knew the difference between a bitter employee and someone preserving a record. Evelyn did not, or maybe she did and refused to admit it. The next morning in Luminara's PR room, Iris tried to warn her. I know because Iris told me later. "He's not reacting like a fired intern," Iris said. Evelyn was reviewing fan comments on a large screen. The ones insulting me were highlighted in green. "Because he wants attention," Evelyn said. "He sent a preservation notice with legal categories that match investor documents. Anyone can download a template. It refers to technical custody." Evelyn turned from the screen. "Iris, I hired you to manage noise, not fear paperwork." Jace, sitting on the couch, added, "Ren probably copied terms from old files. He used to hover around documents all the time." Iris looked at him. "Can you operate the Starlight Index without him?" Jace smiled, not naturally, like someone choosing confidence because fear would be inconvenient. "Watch the showcase," he said. Evelyn looked satisfied. The live ranking showcase opened with music, smoke, and a camera crane sweeping over Luminara's practice hall. Evelyn had turned a technical reassurance event into a performance. Rows of trainees sat under stage lights. Sponsors watched from reserved tables. The livestream audience filled the side screens with comments. Jace walked to the center wearing a headset microphone. "Tonight," he said, "we show the world what Luminara's creative system can really do." I watched from my apartment with a cup of tea. My legal director, Sora, sat beside me with a laptop open. On screen, Jace lifted one hand and trainee profiles appeared behind him. It looked impressive for 12 seconds. Then the numbers began to move. The first issue was small. A trainee known for dance stamina dropped into the vocal risk category. The second issue was worse. A trainee who had missed multiple rehearsals was flagged as stage ready. Then a sponsor-safe pick, someone Evelyn had been pushing for months, received a warning label for audience fatigue. Jace blinked, the camera caught it. Evelyn's smile froze, he tried to continue. The model is showing us a deeper layer of creative potential, he said. That was nonsense, but delivered beautifully. And Myra Hand's name rose to the top of the projection. Not second, not fifth, first. A quiet wave moved through the trainees. Myra sat near the back, hands folded tightly in her lap. She looked more frightened than pleased. Evelyn had buried her for months because she did not fit the image Evelyn wanted for the next girl group. Too calm, too mature, too hard to package into cute clips, but the raw data did not care. It showed Myra's vocal growth, audience retention during small practice streams, lyric composition patterns, and unusually high emotional recall scores from test listeners. The sponsor table noticed. A representative from Hanwell Cosmetics leaned toward his microphone. "Excuse me," he said. "Previous confidence reports on this system included validation notes from Ren's channel. Is that validation active tonight?" Room changed, not dramatically, not with gasps, with attention. Jace turned toward the sponsor table. Ren was an assistant. He didn't validate anything important. The representative looked down at his tablet. "Our contract references his validation channel by name." Evelyn stepped forward. "That was an administrative label. Then who is currently validating the output?" Jace opened his mouth. Nothing came out. The chat noticed. Why can't he answer? Wait, sponsor knows the intern. Why is Myra suddenly first? Was Ren running this? Evelyn laughed lightly. Technical terminology can sound more important than it is. Jace, continue. Jace nodded too quickly. Then he made his worst mistake of the night. He changed a variable live. The projection flickered. 3 trainee ranks swapped without explanation. One sponsor report displayed an error tag. And on the lower corner of the massive screen, for half a second before a technician cut the feed, the system displayed a line Jace had never expected anyone to see. External validation unavailable. Predictive integrity reduced. The room went silent, not completely. The livestream comments kept moving, but the important people stopped smiling. I set down my tea. Sora saved the broadcast clip. On screen, Evelyn's face was still perfect. Her eyes were not. Jace tried to recover. There may be residue from Ren's unauthorized interference. Here it was, not enough yet, but close. At the end of the showcase, 3 things were clear to anyone paying attention. Jace could present the Starlight Index, but he could not operate it. Sponsors knew my name, even if the public did not understand why. And Myra Hand was far more valuable than Evelyn wanted people to believe. That night, Luminara's legal team drafted a statement claiming I had inserted myself into company systems without authorization. A sponsor-side contact forwarded it to me before release. I read the draft once, then again. It accused me of unauthorized access. It claimed the ranking failures were caused by my emotional instability. It described Jace as the original creative lead of the system. It was almost perfect. A lie becomes dangerous when it is spoken. It becomes useful when it is signed. I forwarded the draft to Sora and wrote, "Let them publish if they want." She replied, "You know they will." I looked at the frozen image of Evelyn on my screen, still smiling under lights that were starting to feel too bright. Yes, I thought, that is why this works. The next morning, I went to Everline Capital's office for the first time in weeks. Most people there knew me as unpleasantly calm and allergic to unnecessary meetings. So when I walked into the conference room and said, "We may be converting Luminara," nobody asked if I was joking. Sora had already printed the key agreements, investment notes, technical custody licenses, sponsor guarantees, and artist rights protections. It looked like a stack of boring paper. To Evelyn, it was a wall she had never bothered to read. Sora tapped the first document. Public misrepresentation of licensed core assets is one trigger. Retaliation against the technical custodian is another. If they publish the unauthorized access statement, we have a third. Not enough for clean control conversion. Enough for a review. A review can be buried. Sora studied me, so you want her to overcommit. I want her to say the lie where sponsors, investors, and the board cannot pretend they misunderstood. Clearing my name was not the hard part. That was what Evelyn did not understand. If I revealed my identity too early, she could shift the argument. She would say I had hidden a conflict of interest. She would claim I entered the company in bad faith. She would turn the story into a powerful investor manipulating a visionary female founder. Some people would believe her, not because it was true, because it was simpler than admitting they laughed at the wrong person. I needed her to prove the pattern: credit theft, trainee exploitation, asset misrepresentation, retaliation, false evidence, all preserved, all witnessed. My sponsor relations lead Min opened his laptop. 2 sponsors paused renewals this morning. They are not leaving yet, but they want clarity. Good, I said. He frowned. That is not usually good. It means they will attend the shareholder showcase. Sora gave me a look. You are enjoying this more than your face admits. I opened another file. Myra Hand's contract amendment. Jace's production label had sent it at 1:12 in the morning, promising her a special debut track in exchange for control over her vocal recordings, campaign image rights, and derivative works from her original song library. Here it was, not just stolen credit now, stolen future. I sent Myra one message: do not sign anything today. Read clause 7, 9, and 14 twice. She answered after 6 minutes. Who are you really? That question sat on my screen longer than I expected. I finally replied, someone who does not want you to lose your voice to people who only noticed it after the data embarrassed them. Her answer came almost immediately, then tell me the truth when I ask you in person. I could have refused, I should have refused. Instead, I wrote, fine. That was my first real mistake after leaving Luminara, not because Myra was dangerous, because protecting someone is easier from a distance. When they stand in front of you, it starts becoming personal. Evelyn summoned Myra before I could meet her. She did it in the small mirror room behind Studio C, the one with warm bulbs around the walls and a couch too expensive for exhausted trainees. Jace was there too. That was never a good sign. He smiled at Myra like a man offering a favor instead of a leash. Myra, he said, last night was messy, but it created attention. We can use that. Myra stood near the door. Use it how? Evelyn crossed her legs. A short company video. You say Ren manipulated your ranking. You say he approached you privately and tried to turn you against Luminara. Myra's face did not change much. That was one of the things I noticed about her early. She did not perform emotion until she trusted the room. And if I do, she asked. Jace lifted the contract amendment. Then this debut track becomes difficult. Schedules are complicated. Public perception matters. Evelyn's voice softened. You are talented, Myra, but talent without timing is nothing. Right now you need us. That was the company's favorite sentence, wearing nicer clothes. You need us. Be grateful. Stay obedient. Do not ask who benefits. Myra asked for time to read the contract. Evelyn's smile cooled. You did not used to be this difficult. No, Myra said, I used to be scared. That line cost her. Iris heard it from the hall. Later, she told me she almost stepped in then. But almost is not evidence, and Iris had survived Evelyn by knowing when silence kept her employed. Myra met me that evening in a closed practice room 2 blocks from the agency. She wore a black hoodie, no makeup, hair tied back. She looked tired enough to be honest. I arrived with 2 coffees and placed one on the piano. I don't drink coffee after 6, she said. I don't know your schedule anymore. I was fired. The corner of her mouth moved, almost a smile, almost. Then she placed the contract on the piano between us. Did you sabotage the ranking showcase? No. Did you manipulate my score? No. Did you protect my files? Yes. Her eyes changed, not softer, sharper. Why? Because they were trying to bury performance data that did not match their marketing plan. That's not an answer. It is the cleanest answer. I didn't ask for the cleanest one. I looked at her for a few seconds. The practice room was quiet except for the old air conditioner ticking above the door. Finally, I said, because you were improving faster than anyone else and no one in that building wanted to admit they had misjudged you. She looked down at the contract. I pointed to Clause 7. This transfers your original lyrics into Jace's campaign package. Her hand tightened. Clause 9. This lets his label reuse your vocal recordings for promotional material without separate approval. Clause 14. This means if the debut fails, they can shelve your release and still keep the song. Her face went pale in the ordinary way people do when they realize a beautiful opportunity has teeth. So he wasn't offering me a debut, she said. He was offering you a cage with better lighting. Myra let out a breath, then she asked the question I had been avoiding. Are you only an intern? I could have lied. Instead, I said no. Her eyes lifted. I continued before she could ask more. But if I tell you everything now, Evelyn will say I recruited you with hidden power. She will use it to poison whatever you choose next. Then what am I supposed to do? Read, decide. If they are asking for the truth, give it. If they are asking for obedience, refuse. He stared at me for a long moment. That's it, that's it. You're not going to tell me to trust you? No. Why? Because people like Evelyn always ask for trust before showing the terms. For the first time that night, Myra smiled, small, real. Then she took the contract, folded it once and said, I won't record the statement. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt the ground shift under the story. Until then, Myra had been someone I wanted to protect because the system had failed her. Now she was choosing truth before knowing what I could give her. That was more dangerous than any contract, because it meant her trust was not for sale. Unfortunately, Evelyn understood the shape of that danger even if she misunderstood the cause. Building camera caught Myra leaving the practice room after me. By morning, Luminara released edited footage of the hallway. The statement was ugly. A former assistant under investigation for unauthorized system access has been seen privately contacting a trainee affected by ranking manipulation. Luminara is deeply concerned about artist safety and potential coercion. They did not call me an obsessed intern this time. They called me a threat. That was when the fight became real. Sabotage frame arrived in pieces. First, edited CCTV, a clip of me entering the technical office 2 days before the showcase. No context, no timestamp showing that I still had operational access then. Second, access logs, lines highlighted in red, implying I had altered ranking files after termination. Third, a statement from Jace. He looked wounded in the video. Ren asked me for creative credit multiple times, he said. I told him the industry does not work that way. You cannot demand ownership just because you watched other people build something. I paused the video there. That sentence was going to age badly, but not fast enough. By noon, entertainment channels were running the story. Former intern accused of sabotaging idol agency. Trainee ranking scandal deepens. Luminara protects artist from manipulative ex-assistant. Myra's name trended beside mine. Her debut slot froze. 3 sponsor renewals paused. Everline's board requested a risk review. For the first time since Evelyn fired me, the damage was not only happening to her, it was hitting Myra, it was hitting innocent staff, it was hitting the sponsors who had trusted my framework. Zora came into my office holding a tablet. We can end this now. How? Reveal your Everline identity, publish the license records, show them the original architecture. And Evelyn says I infiltrated the company as an investor to manipulate internal operations. She is already saying worse. She is saying worse emotionally. That is different from having a legal narrative. Zora's jaw tightened. Myra is getting dragged because of your delay. That landed. I looked at the live trends screen. Myra hand-manipulated, poor trainee used by bitter intern, was her ranking fake. I had built systems to protect people like her from rooms like this. Now the room had become the whole internet. For a moment I wanted to burn it down, not strategically, not cleanly, just burn it. That was why I did not touch the keyboard. Anger is useful only after it has been leashed. I stood and walked to the window. Below the office, cars moved through the city like they had no idea anyone's life was being rewritten online. After a minute I said, if we reveal now, Evelyn survives the pattern. If we force discovery, her fake proof becomes our chain of custody. Sora was quiet. She edited logs, I said. Someone did. We need the untouched server records compared publicly. You are gambling with reputation. No, I said. Evelyn is. I am letting her place a larger bet. That sounded colder than I felt. Maybe that was necessary. The first break came from Iris. At 6:43 in the evening, she sent me a file through an encrypted link. Original PR footage, no message, just the file. The footage showed the full timeline from the night of my firing, including the moment Evelyn asked for the termination form before the alleged sabotage window. It also showed Jace entering the technical office after the livestream with one of the production managers. 6 minutes later, Iris sent a second message. I cannot keep pretending this is noise. I replied, then keep the original safe. The second break came from the access logs. Luminara's published evidence had been edited through a production account, Jace's production account. Not directly enough for the public to understand yet, but enough for a third-party source history audit. That phrase was ugly, which meant it was useful. Ugly legal phrases scare boards more than beautiful accusations. I had Everline formally request 3 things before Luminara's shareholder showcase: a source history audit, a sponsor confidence review, and a control review under Everline's investment notes. Evelyn could refuse. If she refused, sponsors would assume she was hiding something. If she accepted, she would have to repeat her claims under the eyes of investors, media, fans, artists, staff, and auditors. She accepted, of course she did. People like Evelyn do not fear stages, they fear empty rooms. Shareholder showcase was announced as a reset. That was Evelyn's word, a reset. She wanted the public to believe Luminara was moving past a toxic former assistant, a technical misunderstanding, and a jealous attempt to steal credit from real creators. The event would include investor reassurance, a live demonstration of the updated Starlight Index, and a preview of Myra's debut material. That last part made me stop reading. I called Myra. She answered on the second ring. They're using your song? I asked. They're trying. Did you sign? No. Then they cannot use it. I know. Her voice was steady but tired. I had heard that tone before from people learning that truth does not protect you instantly. Sometimes it only gives you a reason to stand while the room throws things. I'm sorry, I said. For what? For the timing. You didn't edit the footage. No, you didn't write that contract. No, you didn't ask me to lie. No, then stop apologizing like Evelyn. That hit harder than I expected. I almost smiled. Yes, ma'am. He was quiet for a second. Are you going to tell everyone who you are? At the showcase. Why not before? Because I want them to say their version one last time while the original records are on the same screen. That sounds dramatic. It is actually very procedural. Ren, yes, that is the most dramatic sentence you have ever said. This time I did smile, only a little. The day before the showcase, the board tried to control the audit. They wanted surface-level presentation files only. Everline refused. They wanted sponsor questions in advance. The sponsors refused. They wanted Myra removed from the artist rights segment. Myra refused. Then Evelyn called me. I let it ring twice before answering. Ren, she said, voice warm enough for anyone else to mistake it for regret. This has gone too far. Agreed, you are hurting people who cared about you. No, Evelyn, I stopped covering for people who used that sentence as a shield. A pause, then her voice sharpened. You think because some sponsor remembered your name you can threaten my company? Your company? Yes, she said. Mine. I built Luminara from nothing. I looked at the Everline documents on my desk. That is a strong statement. It is the truth. Say it tomorrow. She went quiet. For the first time, she heard the trap under the floor. I continued. Say it with the audit records open. Say it with the sponsor contracts on the screen. Say it with Jace standing beside you. You are still the same, she whispered, always hiding behind documents. No, I said. I learned documents are where people hide the truth after they finish lying out loud. She hung up. Shareholder showcase began with Evelyn walking through light. She was still beautiful. That mattered. Villains are more dangerous when the world wants them to remain believable. She wore black, simple and expensive, the uniform of a founder who wanted to look wounded but unbroken. Jace stood beside her in silver. Myra sat in the artist row, not backstage where Evelyn had tried to place her. Iris stood near the PR booth with a tablet in both hands. Sponsors occupied the first 2 rows, investors filled the center, fans watched through the livestream, the same kind of audience that had watched me get fired. This time I entered through the front doors, not the staff hallway, not the production entrance, the front doors. Security hesitated when they saw me. Before they could speak, Everline's legal team stepped in behind me. Sora handed security the attendance authorization. The guard read it once, then again. His expression changed. Evelyn saw me from the stage, her microphone hand tightened. Then she smiled at the audience. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, "thank you for joining us as we move past recent distractions and return to what Luminara has always represented: vision, talent, and trust." Jace nodded solemnly. The opening video played. It was gorgeous. A timeline of Luminara's rise, Evelyn shaking hands, Jason studios, trainees practicing, sponsors applauding, the Starlight Index glowing behind them like a constellation. My name did not appear once. That was not a mistake, that was evidence. When the video ended, Jace stepped forward. "Tonight," he said, "I will demonstrate the new creative layer of the system I developed with Evelyn." Sora beside me whispered, "There it is." I said nothing. The auditor, a gray-haired woman with no interest in entertainment drama, walked to the side console. "As part of the agreed source history review," she said, "the demonstration will include source history, license origin, validation chain, and post-termination access comparison." Jace's smile flickered. Evelyn looked toward the board table. Too late. The main screen changed, not to stars, not to trainee profiles, to records, ugly, boring, beautiful records. Original architecture, Starlight Index version 1, creator entity, Everline Technical Custody Division, primary architect. Ren, license holder, Everline Capital. Operational license granted to Luminara Entertainment, creative presentation access, limited, technical ownership transfer. None. The room made a sound that was not quite a gasp, more like 100 people recalculating at once. The livestream comments froze for half a second, then exploded. "Ren, the intern, wait, what?" Jace laughed too loudly. "That is an administrative label." Ren was helping input early data. The auditor looked at him as if he had offered her a napkin during surgery. "The source commits, validation models, sponsor reports, and licensing records do not support that claim." Sponsor representative stood. "Our confidence reports were issued only after Ren's validation channel confirmed predictive integrity," he said. "We were never told that validation had ended until after the termination." Another sponsor followed. "Our renewal terms reference Everline oversight. We understood Evelyn Vale was the public operator, not the technical owner." Evelyn stepped forward. "This is being framed maliciously. Ren hid his connection to Everline while working inside my company." My company, she could not help herself. The auditor moved to the next file. Reviewing termination records. Ren's unpaid operational support ended upon public termination initiated by Evelyn Vale. Advisory withdrawal appears procedurally consistent with the termination document. The screen displayed the livestream clip. Evelyn sliding the folder toward me signing, me saying, "Then I'll stop supporting the company from today." The room heard it differently this time. Ace grabbed his microphone. He still corrupted the system after leaving. The auditor clicked again. Access logs appeared, the edited version first, then the untouched server records, then the comparison. The altered entries had been created after the firing livestream, through a production account, Jace Orion's production account. Jace stared at the screen. For once he had no performance ready. Evelyn turned toward him with pure anger, not because he had lied, but because he had been caught badly. "That account is shared," Jace said quickly. The auditor did not blink. "The session includes biometric workstation unlock, studio badge entry, and internal camera confirmation." Another clip appeared, Jace entering the technical office after the livestream, Jace at the terminal, Jace leaving with a production manager. Iris stepped forward from the PR booth. Her face was pale, but her voice held. "The public footage released by Luminara was edited under executive direction," she said. "I preserved the original." Evelyn stared at her. "You ungrateful." The microphone caught it. The entire room heard the masked tear. Iris flinched, then lifted her chin. "The original shows Ren's access was terminated before the alleged sabotage window," she said. "It also shows Mr. Orion entering restricted technical space after the event." The screen split into timelines: original footage, edited footage, access logs, statement excerpts, Evelyn's public claims, Jace's interview, every lie placed beside the record that contradicted it. And Myra stood. She did not look at Evelyn. She looked at the artist rights panel. "I did not authorize Jace Orion's label to use my original song," she said. "I was offered a contract that would have transferred control over my lyrics and recordings. I refused." Jace's face twisted. "You are only standing because Ren put you there." Myra looked at him then. "No," she said. "I am standing because you tried to take something you could not create." That line was not loud. It did not need to be. The room had learned how to listen. The auditor displayed Myra's original timestamp composition files, then Jace's campaign draft, same chorus structure, same melodic guide, same lyric phrases lightly rearranged. Jace stepped back. Evelyn moved before the collapse could finish. She knew how to survive a public wound. You do not deny every fact, you reframe the battlefield. "This is exactly the problem," she said, turning to the board. Ren hid as an intern. He embedded himself into operations. He built private loyalty with trainees and staff. He created dependence, then withdrew it to seize control. Some board members looked relieved. That was a story they could understand. A powerful investor manipulating a founder. Cleaner than admitting they had ignored every warning because Evelyn's image was profitable. Evelyn saw the opening. "I call for an emergency board vote," she said. "Remove Ren and Everline from operational influence pending investigation." Chairman hesitated, then he nodded slowly. That was Evelyn's final move, and my favorite part of the night, because it meant she still had not read the notes. I stood for the first time since entering the hall. I took the microphone. Everyone turned. The same public that had laughed at my silence now leaned toward my words. I looked at Evelyn. "You are requesting a board action to remove Everline influence after evidence of asset misrepresentation, technical fraud, retaliation against the technical custodian, and artist rights coercion has been presented in a shareholder venue." She laughed once. "Listen to yourself. This is why no one trusted you. You talk like a contract because you have no heart." "That may be true," I said, "but tonight the contract is more useful." Sora handed the chairman a document. The board's legal counsel read the first page, then the second. His expression changed. Evelyn saw it. "What is that?" she demanded. I answered because she deserved to hear it from me. "Everline's investment notes." The counsel continued reading faster. "They include a control clause," I said. "Triggered by executive fraud, retaliation against technical custody, misrepresentation of licensed core assets, and board action attempting to suppress review after evidence presentation." The room was silent now, not shocked, trapped. Evelyn looked at the chairman. "That cannot be enforceable." The counsel swallowed. "It appears enforceable pending formal confirmation." Sora corrected him politely. "It is enforceable upon notice. Confirmation affects record entry, not activation." The sponsor representative stood again. "If Everline assumes control review, our renewal remains active. If the current executive team blocks it, we withdraw." Another sponsor nodded, then another. The board did not need morality anymore. Money had finally caught up with truth. The chairman placed both hands on the table. "Pending investigation, Evelyn Vale is suspended from operational control." Evelyn's face did not turn pale. That would have been too simple. It went still. That was worse. Panic still has movement. Her expression had none. "Jace Orion's production agreement is terminated pending rights review," the counsel added. Jace spun toward Evelyn. "You said the contracts were clean." Evelyn stared at him. "You said you could handle the system." There it was, the romance of borrowed status ending the way it always does. Not with loyalty, with blame. Jace stepped away from her as if distance could save him. "I was following executive direction," he said. The livestream comments noticed before the room did. He threw her under the bus. Fake genius panicking. The intern owned everything. Myra sat down slowly, one hand over her mouth. Not because she was shocked by me, because she was realizing she might actually be free. The chairman continued with the formal language. Everline would assume temporary control under the triggered voting rights. An independent trainee rights review would begin immediately. All artist contracts connected to Jace's production label would be frozen. Staff who preserved evidence would receive protection. Staff who helped falsify records would be reviewed. Sponsors would remain under the new governance structure. Words were dry, the effect was not. Evelyn lost access first, then authority, then the room. She lost her company one sentence at a time, the same way she had tried to erase me, one sentence at a time. When the formal announcement ended, she walked toward me. Security moved, but I lifted a hand to stop them. She stood close enough that the cameras could catch her face, but not her whisper. "You should have told me," she said. That was almost funny, not because it was ridiculous, because she meant it. In her mind, the betrayal was not what she did to powerless people. The betrayal was that I had not warned her I was powerful. I looked at her and said, "If you had known who I was, you would have treated me better." Her eyes trembled. I continued, "That is not the defense you think it is." For the first time that night, Evelyn had no reply. The cameras kept recording. I stepped past her, not because I had nothing left to say, because she had nothing left that I needed. After the showcase, people kept calling it a downfall. That was the dramatic word. The internet liked dramatic words. Founder queen exposed, fake genius destroyed, intern was secret investor, Luminara empire taken overnight. None of that was exactly true. Empires do not fall overnight. They rot quietly, then act surprised when the floor gives way. The weeks after the showcase were uglier than the clips made them look. Investigations are emails, interviews, revised drafts, angry calls, and people suddenly forgetting things they once said confidently. Evelyn lost operational control first, then sponsor access, then her public genius persona. Her apology video explained pressure more than harm, so even her fans turned on it. Jace disappeared faster. Once sponsors stopped returning calls, he became just another handsome man with expensive jackets and no system to stand on. Myra's contract took longer. I insisted she have independent counsel separate from Everline. She said that was excessive. I told her I had made a religion out of excessive paperwork. She laughed at that, a real laugh this time. Her debut was delayed by 2 months, not cancelled. Delayed. There is a difference between a door closing and a door being rebuilt properly. Minara changed too. Some people wanted me to destroy the company entirely. I understood the urge, but revenge that burns innocent people is just ego with better lighting. So we restructured transparent trainee contracts, independent rights review, sponsor reporting separated from executive image campaigns, no more mystery genius presentations, no more artist material moving in producer folders without permission, no more unpaid support treated as gratis. Iris became part of the new leadership team, not because she was perfect, because when the moment came she chose evidence over safety. That counted. First showcase under the new structure was smaller than Evelyn's old events. No silver LED wall, no founder speech about destiny, No Jace in a shining jacket pretending to understand math, just a clean stage, transparent credits, and artists whose contracts they had actually read. Myra performed last. Her song began with one piano note, then her voice entered, quiet at first, almost too plain for the room. By the chorus, nobody moved. That was what the Starlight Index had seen before any sponsor did. Not perfection, retention, the kind of voice people followed without knowing when they had decided to stay. I watched from the back control booth. Old habit. Myra found me after the performance. She was still wearing her stage makeup, but her eyes looked like the girl in the practice room again. You hid in the back, she said. I like good sight lines. You like exits, that too. She held out a printed program. On the credit page beneath songwriter and performer, her name appeared alone. No Jace Orion, no producer theft disguised as collaboration, no company-owned rewrite, just Myra Han. She tapped the page. This felt strange, having your own name on your own work, having no one take it. I did not know what to say to that, so I said the only useful thing, get used to it. She smiled, then she looked through the glass at the stage where the next trainees were gathering for a group photo. You know, she said, I didn't refuse Evelyn because you were important. I know. I refused because the contract felt wrong. I know, and because you gave me the choice instead of asking me to believe you. That one I did not answer immediately. For years I had told myself I did not need recognition. That was mostly true. Recognition from people like Evelyn was just another leash. They praised you when useful, then called you arrogant when you stopped kneeling. But Myra's words did not feel like a leash. They felt like a door I did not have to open yet, only know it was there. So I said, you made the choice before you knew what I could offer. She looked at me. That matters to you more than it should. Good. You needed at least one unreasonable weakness. I stared at her. She smiled wider. You were becoming impossible. Maybe she was right. Maybe I had mistaken being calm for being free. They are not the same thing. On the other side of the glass, the young artist turned toward the camera, laughing because someone had dropped a bouquet. No one panicked. No one screamed about image. They just laughed, fixed the flowers, and took the picture again. A small, healthier thing old Luminara would have edited out. I thought back to the live stream where Evelyn fired me. The silver lights, the investors, the comments laughing, the folders sliding across the table. You carried cables. Maybe I had. I had carried cables. I had carried dashboards. I had carried sponsor panic, trainee warnings, contract risks, artist data, and a founder's borrowed crown. For 3 years I had held up an empire that smiled at me only when it thought I was useful and mocked me the moment it thought I was not. That was the part Evelyn never understood. Being invisible had not made me powerless. It had only shown me who people became when they thought power was not watching. Now I watched Myra return to the stage for the final bow, her name glowing properly behind her. Ira stood near the side, arguing calmly with a sponsor about transparent reporting. Zora texted me to say my posture still looked like a depressed security camera. And somewhere far outside this building, Evelyn was probably staring at a screen, wondering how a useless intern had taken everything. But I had not taken everything. I had only stopped giving her what was never hers. That was enough. When the showcase ended, I left the control booth and stepped into the audience light. No one asked me to carry anything. No one called me intern. No one laughed. The camera that once caught me being escorted out now caught artists bowing on a stage that no longer needed lies to stand. For the first time in years, I was not the invisible beam beneath someone else's empire. I was just Ren, and that was enough.